I think we're ready. So, good morning, good evening, and maybe good afternoon, everyone. I take the opportunity to introduce myself for those of you that I never had the occasion to meet. I'm Giovanni Pascale, Tecnam Managing Director and third generation of the family business. I would like to thank you, everyone, for participating to this webinar today. It is such an honor for me to gather the global general aviation under the same roof. I would like to spend just a couple of words before passing the word to our moderator for today's webinar, Mr. Jan Scheger. And I would like to say that since the pandemic hit us, we have seen that everyone was playing his role. Today, we want to say out loud that the general aviation is here to do the same. We've been in silence for a long time, but today, thanks to the other participants as well, we will be facing different subjects in order to let people understand how we all can contribute. We have the power to bring advantages and help where nobody else can. We are not only pilot, manufacturer, organization, and association. We are the general aviation voice. So again, thank you again for participating, and I will pass the word to Mr. Jan Scheger from Flyer Magazine, UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni, and welcome everybody. As Giovanni says, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and I believe for a couple of people, hello to the middle of the night. Anyway, so my name's Ian Seeger from Flyer Magazine, and I'm very pleased to be able to moderate this webinar on how general aviation can help in the transportation of vaccines. General aviation is often overlooked as a tool, but we all know how general aviation is really the only tool that reaches efficiently, quickly, all of the very distant, difficult places to reach. You know, everybody can go from New York to London. That bit's easy, but all of the thousands and thousands of places in the world, and you know, from a vaccination point of view, we need to reach everybody in the world. It's not a case of just vaccinating one country at a time. The pandemic doesn't respect borders, so general aviation has a really crucial role to play in that. We're joined today by the National Air Transport Association, GAMA, the General Aviation Manufacturers Association, MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship, and RACCA, lastly but not least, RACA, the Regional Air Cargo Carrier Association. So before we get into the main presentations, I'm just going to ask everyone who's joined us from those organizations to just give us a little 1-minute introduction to themselves and their organizations, if they could. So kicking off with NATA, Ryan Waguespack, I wonder if I could hand over to you to give us your minute of fame.
Well, thank you everyone for having me. It's a pleasure to be speaking on this very important subject. Again, Ryan Waguespack, Senior Vice President of the National Air Transportation Association. Our association's over 80 years old, working with the businesses within the business aviation front here in the US. So that's air carriers, repair stations, fixed-based operators, and general aviation airports. So thrilled to be here to talk about this very important subject. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And next up is GAMA. We have two representatives from GAMA. We have Kathryn and Cate. I'm not sure who wants to take the spot for the 1-minute appearance.
Thank you. I'll take the throne for this one. So thank you, Ian, and thank you to Tecnam for organising today's very important webinar on this subject. So a lot of you will probably know GAMA already, but for those who don't, GAMA is the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. We are a global association representing over 100 of the world's leading general aviation manufacturers and service providers. I am the Vice President of European Affairs, so I manage all GAMA's activities in Europe. And my colleague, Kate Brancart, who's with us today as well, is our Manager of Operations and Safety in Europe. Currently this week, she's actually demonstrating the flexibility of GA by flying her own GA airplane in the French Alps, proving that GA is continuing to fly in spite of the challenges of the pandemic. So thank you all for today.
Thank you very much, and very lucky, Kate. I wish I was doing some of that flying myself, actually. Moving on to Mission Aviation Fellowship, Daniel Juzi. Are you there, Daniel?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. It's a privilege for me to be with you all today. I'll just briefly introduce myself, and then later I think I have a chance to talk about MAF and some of the challenges around where we work. I've been actually my entire flying career with MAF. As a pilot, I started in Africa, in Botswana, in the Okavango Delta, and then in Central Asia, Afghanistan later on. I've recently been doing more of the disaster response management with MAF, and yeah, I am ATP and aircraft engineer as well, and I hold a master's in aviation safety management, and I do security as well. So I'm all in aviation there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Daniel. And finally, for our last association, RACCA, the Regional Air Cargo Carriers Association, we have Stanley and we have Kathryn. Stanley, I believe you're about to say something.
I am. Thank you. And I want to thank you all, wherever you may be joining us from, in joining this important webinar. A special thank you to the good folks at Tecnam for organizing this. Giovanni, Walter, Stefano, thank you so much for inviting us to join you. RACA represents the regional air cargo operators, mostly in the US, but also Canada, Europe, and Mexico. We have 49 air carrier members. And as one could imagine, we are the regional and rural side of delivering freight on behalf of the major integrators throughout the geography that I just described. We've been doing this for the last 35 years. Our organization was invented in 2002, and we're very happy to say that in spite of all of the crisis that has been going on the passenger side of airline life, the regional freight carriers have been very stable through this period, and also very happily participating in a very important mission of helping to deliver the COVID vaccines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So hopefully all of you out there have now got a flavour for exactly who's participating in this webinar, who the associations are. And I believe the next up should be, if the technology is working, Stefano, a video presentation.
Yes, I'm going to play the video, Ian. I'm going to share my screen. Walter speaking, yes.
Thank you, Walter.
Hi everyone, I'm Giovanni Tecnam Managing Director and third generation of this wonderful family business. I hope you will find this short presentation interesting, because I'm certainly very excited to share with you an important win. Today's win is neither about a Tecnam new model, nor about a particularly profitable new deal. Today I'm here to share with you a win for all humankind, which could lead us all to a COVID-free world. Today, Tecnam is very proud to announce that we have taken a major step towards delivering the new vaccines and helping to create a COVID-free world. We have formed a partnership with Tecnam, a company recognized worldwide for its excellence in producing ultra refrigeration units. Together, we will be able to load up to 120,000 vaccines doses on 3 special, fully integrated refrigerators mounted on our newest platform, the P2012-10. Throughout this means of transportation equipped with the latest technology available, not only will it be possible to reach almost all remote areas in the world, but it can be done in a quick, safe, and an efficient way. The time has come to leverage the thousands of small airfields and minor airports over the world. And with this new partnership between Desmond and Tecnam, we can make a huge difference. Tecnam is for life. Nobody's gonna be left behind.
Thank you very much for that video. The time has now come for the presentation part of the webinar, and the first presentation is Ryan Waguespack from NATA. Ryan, quick question first. I never know the answer to this. Is it NATA or NATA?
Either or.
Either or.
We call it NATA or NATA.
There you go. I'm going to go with NATA today. So Ryan, over to you.
Well, thank you again. So when the pandemic struck, I mean, we truly saw a golden opportunity for the general aviation community to step up, right? Private aircraft, commercial aircraft, and including the general aviation airports. And we've seen that across the US. You know, in Alaska, they were flying vaccines through to remote communities. Again, the whole idea is to get that vaccine out as quickly as possible, safely and efficient. In Montana, the Veterans Affairs, so the Military Veteran Affairs Group, started working with air carriers to distribute, utilizing their Learjets to distribute vaccines and nurses to administer the vaccines into rural areas of Montana. And it's been really well received. And it just continues to grow. The challenge that we have in the States is that the vaccine was distributed to the States and it was left for on the logistical side with the health departments, and they were trying to figure out logistically what's available to them. Initially, there was discussions of, okay, we need to be able to move these vaccines through the ground, but due to the security nature of it, it would require, of course, the cold storage, security, and then getting it to the new location where those would maybe potentially receive the vaccine. They would also, the vaccines would also require the storage and, of course, more security. So we've seen states here in the US stepping up and saying, hey, let's utilize the private aviation aircraft and leverage that. A great example is, you know, let's say you fly into a community and you have 500 potential doses, 500 potential people showing up, and only 400 show up. One of the challenges that FEMA was facing, we were working with them, is that those remaining doses couldn't be returned to the hub, and so they'd have to be thrown out. So leveraging the general aviation community, we were able to keep a side community on standby with potential new those available to receive the vaccine with a quick, 10, 15 minute flight over and be able to administer those vaccines at the airport with those crew members. So it really has been an exciting and challenging time here in the States. But we're seeing true growth in the distribution. So it's exciting.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us on to GAMA, talking about leveraging the general aviation community. GAMA represents the general aviation manufacturers, as it were. So, Kyle and Cate, have you got a presentation for us?
Yes, we do. If you go to the next slide. Okay, so about a year ago, a bit like NATA, we were all sort of hit in the head with the pandemic as it hit, particularly in Europe initially and then around the world. We in GAMA set ourselves 3 early priorities with the support of our staff and our committees. We quickly switched gears, if you like, from our usual activity, looking at regulations and promoting the sector to trying to address this unforeseen situation that we find ourselves in. The first three top priorities we focused on last year were, of course, ensuring welfare and health of all the workers in our sector, which is a top priority for all our members. And secondly, ensuring the continuity of GA operations, which was, of course, a big challenge, particularly in Europe and to an extent in the US and elsewhere, as well as lockdowns hit. And initial data seems to show that was more successful than we expected, with flight hours looking to be down only 20% compared to other sectors, like the airlines have been much worse hit. And last but not least, really, we realized there was a strong need and possibly an opportunity to really raise awareness about what general aviation can do and how general aviation can really show its best advantages in the pandemic. And I think Cate will take us through a couple of examples now.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, I really do encourage everyone to go on the GAMA website, where you will find a link about all the action that GAMA members did and still do to help the world facing this pandemic. In those pictures, you can see a few of those examples, but we're really proud to actually highlight what Mr. Seeger said about the crucial role of general aviation. In the past, we've seen our members transporting doctors. They've been collaborating with Médecins Sans Frontières in France, but also their employees in their building have been building masks and a lot of more example that you could learn about. So I really encourage encourage people to go know more about what's been happening in general aviation during this pandemic. If you go on the next slide, please. The next stage for GAMA is very important. It's for GA to actually show, like, how can we do this? How can we provide COVID-19 vaccine in the world? And how can general aviation help? So Kyle, hand over to you.
Thank you, Kate. So as we go over the initial waves of the pandemic and the vaccine started to become available late last year, GAMA's members stepped up and volunteered to help support deliveries of vaccines. To that extent, GAMA wrote to the European Commission and all EU member states in early December, effectively offering our services to help distribute vaccines, because we quickly realized that the vaccine scientists have done their work, but the next challenge is going to get those vaccines into the arms of the population and hopefully get us all back to some sort of normality as quickly as possible. And as we've seen, the distribution of vaccines has continued to be a challenge in Europe and elsewhere. So we wrote to the Commission. The problem we realized was, and their reply was quite clear, that whilst the Commission procured the vaccines for all the EU member states, they were not in charge of distribution. And the distribution was therefore left to each individual member state, or in some cases down to different regions within member states. As any of you who are active in GA in Europe will know, national governments, regional governments, and certainly health ministries never would even think of GA as being a useful logistical tool in their toolbox to help with delivering things like vaccines. But the key advantages that we're really trying to promote here today and other initiatives elsewhere in Europe and around the world is GA gives that massive flexibility. This map just shows business aviation airports in Europe, but if you expand it to even all GA airfields that the aircraft like the P2012 could access, it's much, much more. You're getting into the thousands. The airlines can only go to the big airports, and that's great for having a big 777 freighter full of millions of doses of vaccines. But the difficulty is then getting them out to the communities, the rural areas where they need it. And that's going to become even more apparent whenever we get beyond distributing in Europe and start looking to deliver the vaccines to even more remote locations around the world and look at islands, jungles, mountain regions, different challenges. GA really offers a significant advantage in terms of flexibility, shorter field lengths, steeper approaches, smaller shipment size, lower costs. The benefits are numerous. And that's why GAMA is very proud to support the work that Tecnam is doing here today and really showcase the benefits that our industry can offer the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. I've got a question which I'll save to the end for you, but we'll come to that in a bit. Time to perhaps turn towards Daniel from MAF. Now, I guess that if any organisation in the world is specialised in getting stuff to lots and lots of very, very remote, difficult to reach places, it's got to be MAF. So Daniel, can you give us your presentation and tell us about your experience of that kind of distribution?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. I think what the comments that were made by GAMA, they really complement, where we are. If we can move over to my first slide, please, that would be great. And it really expands from where GAMA operates or seems to operate in the Western world, the developed world, to the rural and remote areas. Just very briefly, I was told to give a little bit of a wrap up and present MAF as an organization. How do you do that if you have 75 years of history, which started with aviators after the Second World War, actually, that had seen firsthand in battles that they were fighting or fought in remote postings in Africa, Asia, and Central America. This is how it started. Currently, MAF has about 130 to 140 aircraft, mostly on wheels, some on floats. The caravans are homestay currently. With avgas becoming more scarce in some of these countries, we have to switch to jet fuel Kodiaks. We have a few PC-12s. Still, we used to have a lot of 206s and 210s, and we even have some airvans operating. MAF operates in about 30 countries, 26 of which have a flight program. We also do other things around technology. And what is important to understand is that MAF itself is not bringing or doing the medical help, but we actually serve partners that are out there, be that government agencies, flying doctor services, for example, in Lesotho, doing medevacs in Timor-Leste for the government, or medical or educational and different kind of outreaches like that. Our network is currently about 3,000 plus airstrips, and annually it's between 65 and 85,000 flights that are done. Being small aircraft, you could say, well, 180,000 passengers isn't all that much, and 6 million kilos of cargo neither. However, if you package them into small aircraft and fly them to those places, it does make a few loads. Worldwide, we're about 250 international staff, supported by many more hundreds of local support staff. We have already started, as was said already, in the US, engaging in some of the COVID-19 related flights, initially with PPE that was not present in some of these countries. And we've so far done a few vaccine deliveries in Lesotho and to remote mountain airstrips. If we can move forward to the next slide, please. And what I would like to briefly talk about is, where we see our coverage as an organization, maybe where we can have some value added, is currently in 21 of these developing countries. However, if we think about some of the challenges out there, I called it projections, forecast analysis, possibly some thoughts. I think general aviation in some of these countries, we are faced with some big challenges. It's not that easy. COVAX is obviously the big program that we are looking towards supporting. They, led by the WHO and rolled out through UNICEF, most likely will be implemented through the logistics cluster of the WFP. And this is more like, coordinating the efforts between the different organizations. It's not like that they will be doing it. And MAF is one of the participants in the logistics cluster. So, and we will be looking to other aviation, providers as well, probably also Rotary that will be needed. As you can imagine, one of the challenges that's definitely going to be out there is COVID-19 is a high profile issue. Possibly you could even call it a political issue. And how that could be leveraged or is being leveraged. We have already seen for a fact that general aviation was not allowed. We were not permitted to do some of the flights because the military wanted to do it. You can draw your own conclusions from that. Obviously, the health authorities in the areas where they control will very much be directing efforts into certain areas and possibly not into others. That's just some of the realities out there. If you look at Economist intelligence units predictions on, on the countries that have signed up, things are not going to be moving as fast as they are in the West. Vaccines are going to arrive in some of these countries, particularly in the red ones, only the latter half of 22 and into 23. And this is a long way out. So I think, some of the things that we are also looking at is we currently know of 67 vaccines being developed, some of which, might not be as require as a stringent cold chain as the current ones that have been, that are currently being in use. For some of those countries that definitely have, challenges with basics, electricity and water and sanitation, some of those solutions might be actually good for them to only come a bit later. One of the things that we definitely know is supporting a lot of remote communities. We've done our analysis already last year, and we were very well aware that we're supporting, if we're going to be supporting them with vaccines in the hundreds and not the 10,000s. What that means, though, is that each dose is going to cost significantly more. So if you're looking at flying a caravan full with as many vaccines as you can pack in there, you could supply a small city or a medium-sized city, and each vaccine is going to cost to fly for us just a few cents. However, on the more realistic side of things, if we're looking at bringing in 500 vaccines to a community, it's going to be $4 per vaccine, flying in a team as well to deliver the vaccine. So that's one of the things, more of a central hub and spoke into the community distribution. One of the things I just need to mention is, MAF, we ourselves are a not-for-profit organization. So, we do need funding, and we do need help to be able to pass on these costs to the others, so that it doesn't get exorbitant. One of the things, I think, a challenge that we have seen and we already know that is out there is the local aviation regulators, the considerations that have to be made, even for ourselves being based in some of these countries, flying under local AOCs and registrations there. There is a considerable amount of hurdles that are out there. We also know, coming in as a foreign operator, bringing in foreign registered aircraft, this could be a huge challenge. Not that it couldn't be overcome with appropriate coordination and maybe through WFP or UN, that could help, but it is definitely a hurdle that we are not so much accustomed to, within the EASA space or the FAA space in North America. So that's just a few thoughts from our side. I'm very happy to be here again.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's a fascinating insight. And finally, in terms of organizations, I'd like to hand over to Stanley, Bernstein, and Kathryn Creedy from RACCA, the Regional Air Cargo Carriers Association. Over to you guys.
Good morning once again. It's great to be here. And again, thank you for your desire to include us in your webinar. It's great to be here. If I could just outline a little bit more, it's certainly we're a contrast to MAF in terms of what the supply chain looks like in North America. As all of you could imagine, it's a relatively sophisticated supply chain and very experienced, to say the least. Our role as the regional air cargo carriers is one spoke in the wheel of that supply chain. All of you could imagine the size and scope of the three major integrators, FedEx, UPS, and DHL, and their roles in participating in the distribution of the COVID vaccine. Both of those, FedEx and UPS, and to a limited degree DHL, are very experienced in delivering pharma drugs throughout North America. And delivering the COVID vaccine is really just almost business as usual for them. Our members that are the regional, the rural portion of that delivery supply chain are also heavily involved and have been delivering the various vaccines throughout rural America, and doing it since the deliveries began back at the end of December. The manufacturers of the vaccines have prepared their shipping in very sophisticated containers. They're all being tracked, temperature monitored, and anytime there is a deviation from any temperature, it's noted and dealt with. Fortunately, there have been very few of those. The dry ice situation at first was thought to be a problem, but the amount of dry ice necessary to keep the shipments at the proper temperature levels has not proven to be a factor. We worked very closely with the FAA in the US, who embarked on a Friday call for all carriers involved in delivering of COVID to work out any operational issues that may be associated with the shipments. And fortunately, to date, there have been very, very few problems. And I'm happy to say that for the role of our members, delivery of the vaccine to rural America has been taking place on a very regular basis. As you could imagine, the aircraft being used are smaller or large general aviation sized aircraft, the Beechcraft line, the Cessna line, Saabs, Shorts, all of the aircraft ATR that fall into that category. And we've been very successful in fulfilling the role that we've been asked to take in the distribution and participating in this very important mission. We're monitoring the situation almost daily. As time goes on, it's becoming a regular form of doing business and delivery. And often the vaccines are commingled with many other shipping aspects, so that it's a fairly straightforward situation that we face. And we're happy to say that more and more so, the vaccine is being delivered to the rural segments of the U.S. We're always on the lookout for new modernization of aircraft. Our members fly approximately 800 aircraft every night. We meet the large integrators at their various hubs around North America, meet up with them. Distribution takes place, and off go our regional sized aircraft to deliver the various pharmaceuticals, and in this case, of course, the vaccine to the rural areas of the US. It's business as usual for us. We're happy to say that. Our members are very diligent in terms of what we're doing and the responsibility involved. And to the best of my knowledge, things continue to run smoothly. We do not anticipate any further problems. As you know, other than the Pfizer vaccine, the other vaccines are a little easier to ship. They don't require quite the attention in terms of temperature and storage provisions that the Pfizer one does. But as long as there are any needs that have to be met, our members are more than happy to do just that. And they're doing a great job of getting the vaccine out to where it needs to be. I would expect that as time goes on, that need will diminish and it will be just back to business as usual. So I think we're all looking for the stage when the vaccine has been fully implemented and the world could look back on this very difficult situation and say that our members played a role in helping us get through this and provided the success that we're all anticipating down the road. But again, thank you all for your participation. It's been great listening to all this. You learn something new every day. I know the folks at MAF, you folks are going to have a giant challenge out there, and I'm sure that the focus will shift to you shortly. But good luck in your mission. It's a worthy cause. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the importance of general aviation and echo something that MAF said, that general aviation has always risen to the occasion when it comes to natural disasters. It was instrumental in keeping the Caribbean working and delivering during Irma and Maria, and keeping those islands supplied as well as evacuation. It was instrumental in the Haiti earthquake. It's been instrumental in this occasion. And I think that general aviation is underestimated in its role that it can take on in disaster and health situations such as we're facing now. And I think that, echoing MAF, we need to formalize that participation so that in the future, if disasters happen or we have pandemics, which in all probability we will, because this is the 4th or 5th since 2000, we can formalize, we can get those people moving in a much more formal manner so that government authorities, health authorities know that this is a resource that they have and that the general aviation community will respond before they're even asked. They are ready and willing to serve, and it's a resource that really needs to be formalized in any emergency preparation procedures. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathryn. Before we move on, I just wondered, has anybody's presentations thrown up any questions for anyone here they'd like to ask? No? Okay, well, I'll jump in with a question I've got. And it kind of follows what you've just said, Kathryn, which is the formalization of general aviation and how that happens. It seems to me that you're right. We are likely to have more pandemics. And on top of that, Certainly people are talking in the UK at the moment, people are talking about once they've had their 2 doses of vaccine, having a booster vaccine towards the end of the year, and the COVID vaccine may well become an annual booster or whatever, a regular thing. It's here to stay as it mutates. So I'd kind of like to ask participants how they see, the opportunities for general aviation to engage, because general aviation is one of those things that's massively powerful because there is a huge number of people and a huge amount of goodwill, but it's also a very, very, very spread out, diverse group of, there is a sort of kind of herding cats element to it. So I wonder whether the participants, and maybe I'll go to GAMA first, whether this is going to develop into a little industry. I mean, is the vaccine transport going to be what the Czech pilot, the pilots flying bank checks overnight used to be? Is that a new hour building route? Or what's happening? What do you think will happen?
I wouldn't ever dare to predict the future these days. I think that would be a fool's errand. But certainly the GA industry is very disparate, but it's also our strength. We are everywhere. We are present in all countries. We're airfields closer than most of the average public will appreciate. Certainly at GAMA, one of our big drives since the pandemic, once we got over the initial challenges, was to really raise awareness, because I think there's a greater awareness in the US for sure of the advantages of GA and the facilities it brings, but in Europe, we're way behind. People don't think of GA as being a useful service. People might be aware of like helicopter medivacs, but the use of other GA transportation, like the Corporate Angels Network in the US and other kinds of things like that, just aren't as well known or as active in Europe. So I think there is an opportunity, and I think the great strength of GA is its people. We're all passionate people. We're all here because we are really true believers in what aviation can do for society and can do for people, as well as the technology it brings. And I think we'll stand ready to work together. What form that may take, I wouldn't dare hazard a guess yet, but I think it definitely has an opportunity for all of us.
Okay, maybe I'll ask the question to everybody slightly differently. Has anybody willing to go out on a limb and come up with an idea of what form that participation might take? How can we maybe take some of the logistics of MAF and apply that to a kind of much wider area? I mean, MAF's a huge organization, but general aviation's huger, if that's even a word. Daniel, what are we going to do wrong? What are the lessons that you guys have learned that might save us having to learn them the hard way?
Okay, it's a good question there. I think it's being tied into networks that's important. I was thinking when you were saying if it's going to be staying or is it going to be reoccurring, I think having the networks to, applying this to North America or to the European context would be to like the national health services, or maybe there's going to be a certain amount of privatization that's going to go on with vaccine applications or whatnot, but having these networks and being tied into these networks, having these associations, I think would be something important, but yet also not forgetting we have to have the regulator on board as well, or the regulators on board. And we all know in the US, Part 91, 135, commercial, for doing this for hire, not for hire. There's some lines are more black and white, some are more gray. And being willing and maybe even able is one thing, but how can we do this legal and compliant as well? So there's thoughts that we need to put into there as well, so that we can, if we think about that ahead of time, we can probably overcome them. But if we only start thinking about them at the time, it will catch us back-footed.
I think you're right. Yeah. If I don't know if anyone else has got anything they want to add. If not, I think
I would like to add something about that I'm really proud that I was able to put all of you together. Start with the NATA, then GAMA introduce MAF, and of course our friends that we participate every year to RACCA. And that we are so proud that to have all of you, but especially MAF, because going through what those folks are doing, it's amazing the job that they do. Today, I mean, we are talking about US, how well organized. Here in Europe, we are not so much organized like in US. But I think we need to concentrate to put all our strength together in order to help those in those remote areas. So from Tecnam side, we are gonna continue in that direction. It's our aim to continue to work together in order to have that vaccine in every place of the world. And at the same time, we put our resources to MAF to collaborate together with the travel care or even with our PAN number or Desmond in order to incorporate in all their fleet. This is our wish in order to work together with PAF and with the rest of the team. And at the same time, I have a question for Ryan from NATA. What do you think will be the next step for the general aviation, not only to concentrate in US, but also to concentrate around the world? How we can bring that to the attention of all the media, because I think we need to start involving not only the media from the general aviation or of the aviation, but more about the public, general one, in order to get hit, to say, guys, here we have the resources. Here we have something that is gonna cost less. Here are those folks that they can bring the vaccine and not to fight about how much it's gonna cost. There are people and pilots that they are gonna get the hours in planes that they are ready to transport whatever is possible. And we need to do something. We need to do something together.
Yeah, and I love it. I think Daniel hit the nail on the head. Leveraging the networks. We've done a lot of presentations here stateside with FEMA, with state associations, with state health groups, just showcasing and kind of screaming from the mountaintops of what network is available to them, right? That the general aviation airports are, into these, are truly the roadmap into these rural communities, that we have air carriers and operators with aircraft that are capable of achieving these missions efficiently and effectively. That's the big focus right now, is continuing to beat that drum and showcasing to regulators, country, just as many people in the world we can say this to showcase what our industry really is capable of doing. And I think this is a beautiful step in how we're collaborating and working together to achieve that. Because we all, I think everybody said it, we all want the same thing. We want vaccines and arms, and we want to get back to some sense of normalcy as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I'd like to add an example that I learned about in St. Martin, which was absolutely devastated by Irma, and right after that, within days, Maria. And I was with Charlotte Pedersen, who is CEO of Lux Aviation in Europe, and she has a facility and helicopters in the Caribbean region, which she contacted many governments, many health authorities, et cetera, to say, we are ready, we are willing, we are able to do evacuations, to bring in supplies, et cetera. And they had no idea what to do with her. So a huge resource for helping the people in a disastrous situation went to waste. So if we can formalize these networks and to do as Ryan suggested and get government authorities and health authorities aware of the role of general aviation can play in all of these disasters and these health emergencies, then that would be the way to go. And I certainly hope that we're not going to come to the end of this COVID crisis and say, okay, we're all done, where we should be creating battle plans for the next pandemic or the next disaster, because we have the resources, they're there. We have the money, we have the pilots, we have the aircraft. We just need to formalize. And I agree that it's going to take regulatory participation, but could we not do that on the ICAO stage, only faster? But this is a resource that should not be ignored and needs to be put into the forefront very quickly now and for the future. And I think the travel care is one of the solutions along with the rest of the GA aircraft.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think if nobody has anything else to add now, that's an ideal time to pass back to Giovanni for a kind of summing up of the webinar and a look perhaps at some next steps. And before I do that, I think it's the travel care is a great example of what when you combine a responsive company with a great airframe, you can flexibly change its role really quickly and really effectively. So well done for that, Tecnam. Nice move. Giovanni.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? All right, thank you. So Ian, well, thank you very much for the question. I would like first of all to thank all the people that contributed to this webinar today, because very interesting things were shared and said during the past 40 minutes. I do believe that, yes, this should be a path that we should follow together in order to bring a result to what is happening today, but especially to be ready for what is going to come next. Because the worst part, let's say, that is gone, even though we're still facing in a lot of places of the world a lot of trouble so far. But we got to be ready for what is going to come next. The solution Tecnam proposed was the quickest one we were able to submit. We reacted in a very fast way, trying to use our latest platform, that is the P2012 Traveler, and converted it into the P2012 Travel Care. We try to give a sense, to give the right meaning to this platform in order to be efficient, help people get to those remote locations where, with the standard procedures that are in place today, the vaccine that, especially we're talking about a time-sensitive vaccine, especially at the very beginning where we were playing just with Pfizer. So we were talking about -80 degrees, we were talking about a time-sensitive item, and we were talking about a very complicated infrastructure in order to get this vaccine delivered. Our solution was, I do believe at the moment, was the quickest way out in order to help distributors, in order to get this vaccine delivered in the most proper way, in the safest way, and in the most efficient way. So Tecnam is more than willing in order to invest even more into this subject, because it's important, as I was saying in the video, for all humankind. It's important that we contribute. It's not just a matter of nation. It's not just a matter, of the big boy that are playing the game. It's a matter of everyone. As all of us were saying before, we are the global general aviation. We have a voice. We need to let everyone understand that we can do better, we can do more, and we can help as much as we can. We're willing to do this. So why not choosing the general aviation in order to bring extra help? Everybody's struggling because everybody's complaining because the delivery is not on time, because we're delaying the vaccines, because we're still in the same situation, stuck in our countries, in our region, without traveling, and business are struggling in order to get back in shape again. Plus all of the people and especially those one that MAF is helping in a very special way. I mean, we have the power to do this. We just need to act. We just need to bring our voice on the next level. We need to follow whatever is the next step and be sure that whatever we're doing today is going to make sense tomorrow.
Absolutely. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we have reached the end of today's webinar. Do we have anything else that anybody wants to add?
I think so. No, we have everything said, and I think next step will be that we are going to make a brainstorming. We are going to try to pass that video to many areas where we can get more training in aviation and bring that possibility to all location government and every place that we can collaborate together. So next step will be brainstorming and at least maybe to set up another conference, or maybe we can see each other, all of us in RACCA, That is, I think, Stan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to happen in October, correct? October, November?
Stanley, still there?
Stan?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, the annual RACCA conference will take place in Scottsdale, Arizona, October 26th to 28th. It's a 3-day event, and of course, we'll have all of our air carrier members there, and there'll be a great deal of discussion, no doubt, about the vaccine and the role that the RACCA members have played, but it's certainly open to everyone. I would encourage you to visit our website. All information about the conference is posted there, and again, an invitation goes out to all of you.
Thank you very much, Stan.
Thank you. Well, it just leaves it to me to say thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for Tecnam for doing this, and to everybody who participated in this conference. I think when you look at where we are today compared to where we were this time last year, none of us could have imagined the just absolute huge change. I was talking to my stepdaughter, my step-granddaughter, sorry, not stepdaughter, step-granddaughter the other day, and she's just a little 6-year-old girl. And I said, oh, do you want to go and do whatever it was? And she went, oh, I can't do that. No, I've got a Zoom party to go to, and then I've got a Teams lesson after that. And this is just a look at a 6-year-old, and that could have just wouldn't have happened a year ago. So the world has changed massively. We've done a really good job of adapting, but in terms of the vaccine, that phase is just beginning. We're just starting to get it rolled out, and we all know and we all understand that German aviation has a huge part to play in that, and we need to get out there, and there's some education to be done in terms of government and state and health services and everything else, but we have a huge role to play. So thank you very much, everybody, for participating, and I look forward to bumping into you for real sometime, somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian, for the nation. Thank you to all the panelists, and we are so proud of that event. See you soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.